Welcome to the Active Passive Summit. I'm David Faber, and we are joined here. It's happy hour. You may have a martini coming over.
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm joined by Carl Icahn. I know, it is time to drink. I started to have a beer. But I listened to your presentation here. Full packed room, of course. Carl, you know, and I heard you talking about things that you and I have talked about for many years. You don't think boards are getting any better? I mean, you know, I've heard you saying that, and yet you seem not to believe there's been any progress made through the last, let's call it, decade even, in the composition of boards of directors.
I think there's a lot of verbiage about it, but really, if you go to these boards, with many exceptions, it's very bad. And that's why we make so much money. And that's the problem with our society, literally, our economic society. You have high unemployment, you have this great disparity of wealth. All these things militate by the fact that you have no corporate governance. So you have companies that have no accountability for their CEOs.
You really believe that to be the case?
I do.
I want to understand what you'd be looking for on a board, because, again, you and I have been talking for years. We've had these conversations. I know a lot of board members. You know so many. I know a lot of CEOs. What would make the right board member that doesn't currently exist then in corporate America, in your opinion?
No, you know, they're not bad people. Let me explain it. Actually, I like a lot of the board members. So I'm not talking about board members per se. I'm talking about the system. The system is somewhat dysfunctional. And in other words, you have a bunch of guys, they're friends with the CEO, they've been together for many, many years, and what I think happens is nobody really wants to stand up and say, don't do this. Why are we out playing golf when the company's earnings are bad? So it's a whole different concept. But when we go on the board, you know, it's a very interesting sociological phenomenon where you go on the board and you now see that the CEO is getting a huge bonus, as an example, and he didn't do anything. And the earnings were bad. So if we were an average worker, they might even fire him. And yet the board gives them it. Well, if we get one or two guys on the board, so what are we doing this for? Why don't we really make this guy accountable? There's one or two guys say to the CEO, even though they're friends, he says, you know, Carl, or whoever my guy on the board is, has a pretty good point. I mean, come on, you got to think about the shows a little bit. Yeah. They're not the bad guy. They start backing us, and eventually it works out.
But I know lots of board members, they're not trying to do the wrong thing.
No, not at all.
Generally speaking, they are all trying to do a very good job. So why aren't they succeeding in that?
I don't know what that means.
What do you mean you don't know what that means?
When you say trying to do a very good job.
Well, they're trying to do a good job for shareholders. I believe that to be the case.
And some not.
Yeah.
Some really just like being on the boards. They're getting $500,000-600,000 a year sometimes. And you got the drink. Oh, wait.
All right. You want your martini?
You want to put it off for a minute?
Yeah, bring it in.
Is she shut off? I don't want to.
Yeah, we'll
don't have me on TV.
Have a drink.
I'm going to have a drink.
I'd like my beer too.
I'm coughing. My throat is dry.
6:35 at night.
Absolutely.
Cheers. Is that all right?
No, yeah, I'm going to have some more sips. My throat is dry.
We can talk and you can drink.
No, I don't want to. I don't think we should do that. What do you think? That looks bad. I'm not doing that.
Looks like water. Yeah.
No, it's got this.
All right, you can give it to your daughter here.
No, put it here and I'll reach out.
You can't put it on the television. That was good, wasn't it?
Fine.
All right, I'm going to have my beer. You feeling better?
I don't.
All right, listen, I don't want to belabor the point, but I mean, I've been hearing you make it for all this time. It doesn't seem to me that you're ever going to get, I'm not quite sure what you're looking for. I mean, you want all boards to be completely responsive to shareholders and look to fire the CEO all the time?
No, I was saying not to fire the CEO. There are many good, I want to make it clear, there are many good CEOs, many good boards. But when the kind of companies generally, with exceptions we go after, don't have that. And they have problems, and they should be doing things. And look at the effect we had. Look at the companies we really changed. I mean, just look back. I mean, look, I made all this money. You know, again, at the risk of being immodest, not to pat myself on the back, if you bought IEP, you're up 1,600%, or a better statistic, which I want you to put in and don't edit out.
Okay.
You bought the stock of any company. You didn't have to know what it was. when I got on the board, just read the Wall Street Journal. It's on the. I just put it away and waited. So sometimes it's 3-4 years, but you wait. We're on the board now. You wait until I either get off the board or today. You're up annualized. We did the numbers, 30%, as if you put money in a fund, and we're up 30% annualized per year. That tells you something. It tells you that we have a great effect. I mean, it can't. I mean, we're talking 25 companies.
You're a good stock picker, too. I mean, you have a great sense for picking value.
I thank you for saying that, but that's not why that is, because the companies that we've gone on have been companies in problems. We buy cheap. I like to buy cheap. I don't go chase these.
I know you don't.
So the companies we buy are not doing that well when we get in, because that's why we buy them. We buy them when they're down. If they're up, we don't. So it's not like the company's a great company. It's that we go in and see something in the company that could be done. All right? But why isn't the board seeing that? Why isn't the board doing what we're doing? And by the way, the real interesting fact is that we get invited back when we don't have to be invited back. We get on because we're proxy fight people. We're invited back, and more importantly, I've become friends with some of those board members and the CEOs. Believe it or not, the CEOs who were there somewhat changed, somewhat got religious. Some of them are good guys, but they just had nobody to account to. It is a problem for our economic society that we are not more productive. Okay, we have unemployment, which we shouldn't have with the Fed. The Fed is out there doing everything they can, printing our money like crazy, where you can borrow money at 5% or 4%, and yet we still have huge unemployment.
And you really point to unemployment as a result of poor corporate governance? You can make a direct correlation?
No, I make the correlation poor management. Poor management. In other words, when we get in, we clean it up, they're suddenly, our critics say we're only short-termism. That's bullshit. I own companies for 15 years. I can mention them to you.
I know you have. I know. You've owned Exo or Federal Mogul.
HCF, 30 years.
Right. Okay. The rail car companies.
We build them up and we invest billions into them. So we don't run away from them. The reason we are so successful is there is no separation. When I say none, I believe very strongly, so I want to make it straight, that the CEO should be left alone. He should not be micromanaged, but he should be held accountable. And we come in and help him also not to worry so much about quarter-to-quarter EBITDA numbers, but to worry about what secular changes are going on that we discuss with him. I mean, for instance, in Federal Mogul, we're trying to do a lot with our aftermarket. And I'm just giving you examples.
I know, but what about examples like eBay or Apple, where people would say, you came in and eBay, you say, all right, split the company. If they'd done it, you would have been in and out. Apple, $150 billion, buy back stock.
Can I ask you a question? Why would I have been out? See, that's unfair for you to say. It's
not unfair, because I'm saying others would say it's the case.
Well, others can say what they want, but it's not true.
Okay.
Not factual.
That's what I wanted you to respond to.
Come on. It's like the Salem witch trials. That's what these guys sound like. Or really...
You still own Apple, right? You still own it.
I still own it. I have never sold a share.
You haven't sold a share of it?
Not a share. I mean, I've held stocks for 7 years, 8 years, 10 years. We don't sell them. I held Forrest for 4 years.
I know you did.
I held Reynolds.
You realized an enormous return.
I mean,
you held Reynolds way back when for 5 years. I ran a proxy fight.
5 years. Rite of Spring. They used to call me the Rite of Spring. So what I'm saying to you is that I believe in these companies. The companies we own now, Federal Mogul, 8-10 years.
Right. Well, you've seen that through some ups and some downs.
So what? It's cyclical, but it's still a lot better company than when I came in.
Yeah.
I mean, there are many of them like that. Many. Exo is much better than when I came in.
I want to talk a little bit about the recent past, because I did mention Apple and eBay. You didn't really come out ahead on both of those.
I think I did.
Why?
First of all, Apple did a bigger buyback.
Okay.
I got to meet, I got to talk long periods of time with Donahoe at eBay. The reason I think it came out ahead is we did get Dave Dorman on the board.
Right.
And I have a comfy, meaning I can talk to them. So I get involved. And I think when I get involved, it's very helpful.
So you think even though you were not going to win a shareholder vote there, you weren't.
I think you're right, but I might have won a seat. But they gave me a seat anyway with a good guy. So I got
a
that.
guy they like and you like, right? So you both agreed on this guy, right? On Dorman.
I actually suggested him, yeah. But,
you did?
Yeah. Well, he was on Motorola.
Right, I know.
And he did a great job there.
I know. So you think you came out ahead there. But they're not going to split out PayPal, but you got a con fee so you can continue to have conversations, confidential conversations with the board. Keep prodding them.
I'm held by by a standstill there.
Right.
I can't, buy or sell unless the window's open. But that's okay with me. I want to understand what happened. That's what I do with all these companies.
I'll tell you something else you did on eBay, though, that I thought was, or we can argue about whether you won or lost, and it can be great. But you raised this issue about venture capitalists on public boards, which I have to say many people were not thinking about at all. And a lot of people applaud you for that. Now, there are people who disagree with you, Mark Andreessen amongst them, and can give a lot of reasons why. But I'm curious as to what your thoughts are now about that issue, which frankly was not an issue, at least here on the East Coast, we were talking that much about in terms of...
I can talk about it generally. Yeah. I don't want to talk about eBay in particular.
Okay.
But as a general concept, I think board members, if they're really competitive, if they're in a company that's competitive, I think it's ridiculous. They shouldn't be on. I don't want to go too far or too deep. I don't want to resuscitate the eBay question.
All right, but I'm curious about it because I've done some reporting on it, and I've spoken to some CEOs about their board members who might be conflicted in some way because they are at a venture capital firm that invests in other companies that may compete, or they themselves